April 28, 1967. Do you remember when draft notices came in the mail? Plain brown envelopes that could change your life. Muhammad Ali stood in the Armed Forces Induction Center in Houston, Texas, wearing a dark suit. Around him, young men lined up to take the oath, to become soldiers, to go to Vietnam. When they called, Cassius Marcellus Clay, Ali didn't move. The officer called again. Cassius Clay, step forward. Ali stayed still, silent, his hands at his sides, not clenched in fists, just open, peaceful, defiant. Mr. Clay, you are ordered to step forward and take the oath. Ali looked at the officer with those famous eyes. My name is Muhammad Ali, and I ain't going. In that moment, that single, quiet moment of refusal, Ali threw the hardest punch of his life. Not with his fists, with his conscience. And it would cost him everything. But nobody in that room knew what Ali had decided 3 days earlier. The decision that would change sports history forever. April 25. 3 days before the induction, Ali sat in his hotel room in Houston with his spiritual advisor, Herbert Muhammad. Do you remember when hotel rooms had rotary phones and ashtrays built into the furniture? Ali stared at the draft notice on the desk. They're going to take everything, brother, Herbert said quietly. Your title, your license, your money, maybe your freedom. You could go to prison for 5 years. Ali nodded. I know, and you're still going to refuse? I have to. Allah is testing me. My people are watching. How can I tell black kids to stand up for themselves if I bow down when it's my turn? Herbert leaned forward. Muhammad, listen to me. There are ways around this. You could join the National Guard. Do exhibitions for the troops. They offered you that. You wouldn't have to fight. Wouldn't even have to carry a gun. But I'd still be supporting the war. Still be saying it's okay to kill Vietnamese people who never called me nigger. Who never lynched my ancestors. Who never made me drink from a separate water fountain. Do you remember those water fountains? Whites only, and colored. Ali had grown up with them in Louisville, Kentucky. Had lived through segregation. Had won an Olympic gold medal for America in 1960 and still couldn't eat in certain restaurants. The Viet Cong never did that to me, Ali said. So why should I go kill them? That statement, that simple, devastating logic, would become his famous quote. And his cross to bear. February 17, 1964. 3 years earlier. Do you remember when Cassius Clay shocked the world? When he defeated Sonny Liston to become heavyweight champion at 22 years old. That night, Ali danced around the ring shouting, I shook up the world. I'm the greatest. He was beautiful to watch. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. That wasn't just a catchphrase. It was truth. Ali moved like no heavyweight had ever moved. Fast, graceful, impossible to hit. But the next day, he shocked the world again. Announced he'd joined the Nation of Islam. Changed his name from Cassius Clay, his slave name, to Muhammad Ali. White America was furious. Sports writers refused to use his new name. Called him Cassius Clay in headlines. Said he was a traitor, a radical, a threat. But Black America saw something different. Saw a young man refusing to be what white people wanted him to be. Saw pride. Saw defiance. Saw possibility. Ali's own mother cried. Cassius, that's the name I gave you. Why won't you use it? Because it's not mine, Mama. That name came from slave owners. Muhammad Ali is who I choose to be. Do you understand what that meant in 1964? When black people were still fighting for basic civil rights? When Muhammad X became Malcolm X and Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali, they were saying, we get to name ourselves. We get to define ourselves, not you. And 3 years later, that same defiance would face its biggest test. April 28, 1967. Back to the induction center. Ali refused to step forward 3 times. The officer declared him in violation of the Selective Service Act. By the end of the day, the New York State Athletic Commission had suspended his boxing license. Other states followed. The World Boxing Association stripped his championship title. Muhammad Ali, undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, was no longer allowed to box. The press went wild. Remember when newspapers were how you got news? The headlines screamed, Clay refuses induction. Champ dodges draft. Ali a coward. Reporters surrounded him outside the building. Microphones everywhere. Those big 1960s microphones you had to hold close. Ali, are you afraid to fight in Vietnam? Ali looked straight into the camera. I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong. No Viet Cong ever called me nigger. That quote, that one sentence, it echoed across America. In living rooms where families gathered around TV sets. Remember when TVs were furniture, not screens on walls? In black churches where preachers quoted him from pulpits. In college dorms where students were burning draft cards. Some people called Ali a hero, others called him a traitor. But everyone was talking about Vietnam, about race, about conscience versus country. But here's what the cameras didn't show. Ali went home that night and cried. His wife Belinda found him in their bedroom. Muhammad, what's wrong? You did the right thing. I know I did. But Belinda, they took my title. I worked my whole life for that title. And they just took it, like it was nothing. It wasn't nothing. You're still champion. They can take the belt, but they can't take what you did in that ring. Ali shook his head. It's not just the title, it's my career. I'm 25 years old. I should be in my prime. I should be fighting. But now, I can't fight anywhere in America. What am I supposed to do? You fight differently now. With your voice. With your example. But Ali didn't want to fight with words. He was a boxer. Boxing was his art, his purpose, his identity. And they'd taken it away. Do you know what that feels like? To have your calling stripped from you. To be good at one thing. The best in the world at one thing. And have it forbidden. And it got worse. Much worse. June 20, 1967. Ali was indicted by a federal grand jury. The trial was quick. The jury deliberated for 20 minutes. Guilty. 5 years in prison. $10,000 fine. Ali's lawyers appealed. He remained free on bail, but his boxing license was gone. His passport was revoked. He couldn't fight overseas either. He was 25 years old, in his athletic prime, and banned from the only thing he'd ever wanted to do. For 3.5 years, Muhammad Ali couldn't box professionally. Do you remember those years? 1967 to 1970. Vietnam War raging. Cities burning after Martin Luther King's assassination. Students protesting on campuses. America tearing itself apart. And Ali became a symbol. He spoke at colleges, at rallies, at anti-war demonstrations. He made money from speaking fees, but it wasn't boxing money. And it wasn't boxing. He'd wake up early, run, hit the heavy bag in his garage, shadowbox in his living room, keep his skills sharp for a return that might never come. Why do you still train? Reporters asked. You might never fight again. Because I'm a fighter. That's who I am. They can take my license, but they can't take my identity. But the hardest part, watching other fighters become champion while he sat helpless. March 8, 1971. The Supreme Court was still deliberating Ali's case, but New York finally gave him his license back. After 3.5 years, Ali could fight again. His comeback fight was against Joe Frazier. Remember Frazier, the champion who'd won the title while Ali was banned? March 8, 1971, Madison Square Garden. The fight of the century. Ali was 29 now, 4 years older, 4 years of prime lost. He trained like a man possessed, but everyone wondered, can you really come back after that long? The fight was brutal. 15 rounds. Both men gave everything. In round 15, Frazier landed a devastating left hook. Ali went down. First knockdown of his career. He got up, finished the fight, but lost the decision. Do you remember where you were when Ali lost to Frazier? If you're old enough, you remember the shock. Ali, the greatest, the unbeatable, had lost. In his dressing room after, Ali sat with his head in his hands. I gave up 3.5 years for my beliefs, and I come back to this, to losing. But his trainer, Angelo Dundee, said something profound. Champ, you didn't lose tonight. You lost 3.5 years ago when they took your license. This is just the scoreboard catching up. And here's where Ali's story becomes legendary, because he didn't give up. October 30, 1974. Kinshasa, Zaire. The Rumble in the Jungle. Ali vs. George Foreman for the heavyweight championship. Do you remember George Foreman in 1974? Not the gentle grill salesman he'd become. The destroyer. The knockout artist. The man who demolished Frazier in 2 rounds. Younger, stronger, undefeated. Everyone thought Ali was finished. He was 32, ancient for a heavyweight. Past his prime. Going against a monster who broke men in half. But Ali had learned something in those 3.5 years away from boxing. He'd learned that some fights aren't won with fists. Some fights are won with will. Round 1, Foreman charged like a bull. Ali covered up, let Foreman punch. Leaned on the ropes, loose, relaxed. Rope-a-dope, they'd call it later. Round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, same thing. Foreman punching. Ali absorbing. Talking the whole time. That all you got, George? My grandmother hits harder. Show me something. Round 8, Foreman was exhausted. Arms heavy. Breathing hard. Ali saw his moment. Came off the ropes. Combination. Right hand. Foreman went down. New heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali. But here's what made that victory transcendent. It wasn't just about boxing. In the ring after, Ali grabbed the microphone. Remember when champions spoke without PR teams? Raw. Real. Emotional. I told all of you, I shook up the world. I'm still the greatest. I'm still the champion. But then he said something quieter. Something the cameras barely picked up. I lost 3.5 years. They tried to break me. Tried to make me give up my beliefs. But I didn't. And I'm back. For every young person who stood up for what they believe in, this is for you. Do you understand what he was saying? This wasn't just athletic redemption. This was vindication. Proof that you can stand for your principles and still win. That courage has a cost, but also a reward. The Supreme Court had unanimously overturned his conviction in 1971. He'd never served a day in prison, but he'd served 3.5 years in exile. 3.5 years of his athletic prime, gone forever. Could he have been even greater without that gap? Definitely. Would he have had the same legacy? Maybe not. Because here's the truth that defines Ali's life. Muhammad Ali won 56 professional fights, lost 5, but the most important fight, the one in Houston on April 28, 1967. The fight where he didn't throw a single punch. That refusal, that quiet, powerful no, changed sports forever. Changed how athletes think about their platform. Changed the conversation about war, race, conscience, and sacrifice. Do you remember when athletes were told to shut up and play? When standing for your beliefs meant losing everything? Ali proved you could survive that. Could thrive despite that. He paid a price. 3.5 years. Prime athletic years. Money. The title. But he gained something more valuable. His soul. His integrity. His place in history not just as a great boxer, but as a great human being. By the time he died in 2016, even people who'd hated him in 1967 respected him. Presidents honored him. The government that had prosecuted him gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The country that had called him a traitor called him an American hero. And the echo? It never stopped. Every athlete who speaks out today, who takes a knee, who wears a message, who uses their platform for justice, is standing on Ali's shoulders. He showed them it was possible, showed them the price, yes, but also showed them the price was worth paying. Colin Kaepernick kneeling, that's Ali's echo. LeBron James speaking on social issues, that's Ali's echo. Athletes demanding justice, equality, change, that's Ali's echo. Do you remember when Muhammad Ali lit the Olympic torch in Atlanta, 1996? His hands were shaking from Parkinson's disease, the price of too many punches, too many fights, too many years of sacrifice. But he stood there, trembling, holding that torch. And the whole world watched. The same world that had condemned him in 1967 was honoring him in 1996. 29 years. That's how long vindication took. The greatest irony, Ali never threw the punch they wanted, never went to Vietnam, never killed anyone, and he became more powerful than if he had. Because the punch he didn't throw was the one that changed everything. The refusal became more famous than any knockout. The stand became more important than any title defense. I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong. 8 words, 1 moment, a lifetime of consequences, an eternal legacy. The echo never ends. Can you hear it? It sounds like young men refusing unjust orders. Like athletes using their voice when silence would be easier. Like people choosing conscience over convenience, principle over profit, soul over success. Muhammad Ali died at 74, but that 25-year-old who refused to step forward in Houston, he's immortal. He's every person who's ever said no when the world demanded yes. Every person who stood alone when everyone else bowed down. Every person who understood that some fights you win by refusing to fight. The greatest heavyweight champion of all time. The man who floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee. The Louisville Lip. The people's champion. But more than that, the man who knew the hardest punch to throw is the one you keep in your pocket. The one called conscience. The one called courage. The one called truth. Do you remember Muhammad Ali? Remember all of him. The boxer and the believer. The champion and the conscientious objector. The man who had everything and gave it up for principle. The man who lost 3.5 years and gained eternity. That's not just sports history. That's human history. That's the story of what it costs to be free. Really free. Free in your soul, not just your body. The punch he never threw landed harder than any he did. And it's still echoing. Right now. Forever.